My name is Dustin. I'm the student ministries pastor over at the Galt campus. And honestly, I'm so incredibly blessed that I get to be here with you guys this morning. I'm a huge baseball fan, just a massive baseball fan. You may have guessed I like a team called the Dodgers. I know many people out in this area are Giants fans, so when they find out I'm a Dodgers fan, they immediately go, oh man, we're praying for you. And please do. Please do, all right? I was stressing out yesterday during the Dodger game. We were down most of the game. It's the middle of the playoffs, and I'm like, oh no. But thankfully, to a Justin Turner home run, we were able to come back and beat the Brewers. And I love it. I love it because it reminds me, honestly, baseball kind of reminds me of my time here with you guys this morning. Being a student ministries pastor, I'm in front of students all the time. I get to have this awesome time with kids and play games and have fun and live life with them and help them and love them. But often I don't get called up on Sunday morning to preach. And so if you know anything about baseball, there's different levels. And during the playoffs, they call up some of the younger guys and they say, hey, we need some extra help this morning. And I feel like this is my shot. I got called up. Like, this is cool. I've made it to the major leagues. Here I am with you guys. And so hopefully, since we're talking about pride this morning, that doesn't seem too prideful of a comment. But nonetheless, I'm super excited to be here. I'm super happy that I get to be out here in Walnut Grove with you guys. It's amazing, though, as we've been in this Pride series, we're jumping into week 2. It's amazing when I look at the earth and see the different things that are small or big and make a big impact in this world. And as Tim and I were kind of talking through some stuff, he came up with this amazing example of the 10 deadliest animals on earth. And I love this. So hopefully I don't scare you guys this morning, but don't worry. I mean, none of these are too scary. I mean, they're just the 10 deadliest animals in the world, so no big deal. For instance, number 10 on the 10 deadliest animals in the world is the shark. They kill about 100 people every year. You know, honestly, I would have thought it would have been a lot more. You know, you always hear about sharks. Maybe it's just because we're all freaked out over the movie Jaws, which was way back in the 80s, and yet it's still scaring people and children today. But, you know, sharks, 100 people per year. That's not too bad. Number 9 on the list is jellyfish or the sea wasp. And that is also at about 100 per year. So jellyfish kill about 100 people per year. Number 8 on the list is the hippopotamus. The hippo, man, is the 3rd largest land mammal in the world, and it kills around 200 people per year. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely, when I'm hanging out in the area, I try to look both ways, make sure there's not a hippo coming, because you never want to run into one of those. The next one on the list, number 7, is the lion. They kill around 250 per year, mostly in Africa. As they kind of go out and do their things, you end up, running into lions, I guess. I don't know. I've never been to Africa. You'd have to ask somebody who has. Number 6 is the Cape buffalo. The Cape buffalo, also known as the Black Death, which I don't know why, but it's kind of cool. It's called the Black Death. There you go. And they kill somewhere around 500 people per year. Who would have thought that a buffalo killed more people than a lion? Like, that is crazy. That is a weird thought, right? And then, of course, everyone's favorite, number 5, the elephant. That's right. Elephants are the largest land mammals, and they kill around 600 people per year. 600. In fact, elephants are deemed friendly in so many places. The only things that I can think of is that, a lot of people use them as animals and train them to ride them and stuff like that over in India and Asia. And so, I think eventually the elephants go, hey, I've had enough, right? And they fight back. So elephants never forget. There we go. Number 4, the crocodile. The crocodile. Good news, folks. We don't live in Florida or anywhere near that area. I think those might be alligators. I don't know. But crocodiles kill around 2,000 people per year. 2,000. That is a lot. Number 3 on the list is the scorpion. Yes, it's small and mighty, but it packs a powerful sting. The scorpion kills around 5,000 people per year. 5,000, that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And the next one up is the snake, right? The snake. Yes, there are 450 kinds of venomous snakes. 450, that's insane. That is so many different snakes. 250 of those are capable of killing a person, which leads to around 100,000 deaths by snakes every single year. 100,000. That's crazy. That's insane. That is a lot. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look even in the broad scale of just the United States, 100,000, while it is a lot, in the grand scheme of all of the population of the world, it really isn't that much. 100,000, I know it sounds bad, but it's really not that much according to 7 billion, right? Now, how about this one? The most deadly animal in the world. What'd you say? Man, that's a good question. You ready for this one? It's the mosquito. It is the mosquito. That's right, the most deadly animal in the world is the mosquito. There are over 3,000 different kinds of mosquitoes. Over 3,000. And they kill between 2 to 3 million people every year. 2 to 3 million, that's insane. That is absolutely insane. That the smallest of them all, the one that you would least expect, the one that we all probably have living in our homes right now, or at the very least on your back porch, is the one that kills the most people every year. 2 to 3 million. Now, I know you guys are all going to go home. You're going to run and be like, okay, I'm checking my home. I'm checking my back porch. Like, do we have a mosquito in the house, right? Don't worry, guys. I'm sure you're safe. But the whole point of this right here is to understand that it is the smallest thing. It is the smallest thing that you wouldn't even think twice about. I mean, how many of us have been around a mosquito and had 19 different mosquito bites and been like, oh, okay, I'm going to be uncomfortable for the next day or 5. But it'll be better. It'll get better. But it's the smallest thing in our lives that sneak in and they hit us the hardest. 2 to 3 million. That's absolutely insane. Last week, we kind of talked about this idea of pride is about my glory, and humility is about God's glory. Pride is about my glory, and humility is about God's glory. I believe Pastor Jeff was here, and I know he talked about this, and he kind of talked about this idea of good pride versus hubristic pride. And good pride is that idea of that when you do a good job about something, like for instance, if you're raising kids, and I don't know anything about this, when I see kids, I want to pull my hair out, and I go, oh, thankfully I've got nieces and nephews, and I hand them back. But as parents, I'm told that when you raise your kids, you can stand back and you can go, I feel good about the way I raise my kids. They make me happy. They make me proud. I am proud of them. When you work all day and you do a long job and you just feel like you've given it your best, you can stand back and look at the work that you've done and go, I feel proud about the work that I've done. That's a good pride. Pride is not always a bad thing, but there is good pride, for instance, of those things. But we have the hubristic pride. The hubristic pride is all about me. Right? It's like, yes, I am the best. Yes, I am definitely better than you. Or I could have done that better. I always struggle with that one, honestly, personally. Me, I look at something and I go, I probably could have done that better. And it's so hard because I work with youth all the time, and it reminds me, yesterday we were actually helping somebody move, and every time they would do something, they'd stack boxes up, and I wanted to scream at some time, like, no, what are you doing? And I'm like, I probably should have done that myself. And I remember, okay, take a step back. Whew. Take a step back. That's the hubristic pride we're talking about. When we talk about how you put your needs and yourself above other people's. Why does God hate pride so much? First is because it reminds God of someone else. It reminds God of someone else. Second, it hinders us from seeking God. The pride in our life takes our thoughts away from God. Next, it leads down a path of other sins. I've been thinking over the last week myself even, is there a sin that is not first led by pride? It took me a long, I started talking to people, I started having conversations with people. This idea, is there a sin that is not first led by pride? And I don't think there is. I don't think there is. Everything is usually about serving you. We're a selfish people. We're a prideful people. And lastly, pride has kept people from accepting Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Pride has kept people from accepting Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, and that is a deadly pride. That is a pride that has eternal consequences, a pride that has so much weight to it, and yet there it sits at pride. We look at ourselves and we kind of, last week we showed this prideometer or the pridometer, whatever you want to call it, right? And it's like, where are you from the good pride to the hubristic pride? And you have to take a quick self-reflection of yourself and find out where you are. And honestly, as I look at that, that's a fluctuating scale, isn't it? Like some days, you kind of sit back and you're like, wow, okay, like this was such a great day. I really feel like I did a great job serving other people. And then at the end of the day, when you tell yourself that, all of a sudden you're like, and I'm swinging to the hubristic part. You start looking at it. But it really does fluctuate. It really can change from day to day. And then humility is not the absence of pride, but the relentless effort to subdue it in oneself. C.S. Lewis had this amazing quote. Humility, again, is not the absence of pride, but the relentless effort to subdue it in one's self. That is a powerful quote. C.S. Lewis is just this amazing author and theologian that comes up with these great one-liners. I took a C.S. Lewis class in college, and in learning more about him, man, he is a great man. He really was absolutely amazing. This week, we want to talk about how God hates pride. God opposes the proud. Now think about that for a second. God opposes the proud. He hates pride. And we see that in 1 Peter 5:5, and it says this, young men, and could be women too, all right? Young men, in the same way, be submissive to those who are older. All of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Man, he opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I have no desire to be opposed by God. I don't even, I read the Old Testament, I see the strength that he had in the Old Testament, I read the New Testament, the strength that he has in the New Testament, and I just go, man, God is bigger than me. He is so much bigger than me, right? He is massive. He created the world. He created everything in all of existence. I'm not entirely positive that I want that God to be opposed to me. Man, what would that look like? Man, what would that be like in our lives if God opposed us? And I love that next part where it says, he gives grace to the humble. Oh, no big deal, right? Okay, God's grace, I got to be humble. But again, pride is like that mosquito. It's that small thing in our life that for a long time, we don't even recognize it's there, honestly. It's like the mosquito hiding in the corner. You're like, oh, I see it. I'll get to it later. No big deal. But when it comes to being humble, we need to take that pride. We need to chuck it out because we don't want to be opposed by God. But yet we want to have the grace in which he provides and gives to the humble. So where did pride come from? Right? Where did this pride come from? And we looked at a passage last week, Isaiah 14, 12 through 14, and it says this, how you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars. I sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of the sacred mountain. I will ascend above the mountaintops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. We looked at this passage last week in Isaiah, and it says, I will 5 different times. I will. It's all about me. It's all about the pride that Satan has. Now this passage alludes to Satan and Lucifer here, and he says, I will 5 different times. I'm what you call a millennial. And I know millennials are not usually referred to in any other way other than, oh, those darn millennials again, right? Like, oh, those millennials are causing all kinds of problems. And there's a word that's been attached to the millennial name. It's called entitlement. Why? Because I deserve that. I'm owed that. I will. That's a bad place to be. And unfortunately, as I look at this entitlement and this I will mentality in the millennials, it scares me when I see that it matches up with Isaiah here. And that is Satan talking about Lucifer. I will, I will, I will, I will. That is a bad place to be. Jude 1:6 says this, and the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their own home, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting change for judgment on the great day. Talks about how angels took their positions of authority and left because they wanted more. They wanted more. You know, what's funny is we look at this idea of fallen angels, right? And we go, oh man, Satan fell from heaven. And he took a third of God's angels with him. There's a couple things that I want to correct in that. One, Satan did not fall from heaven. He was pushed. Can you imagine, like, Satan didn't look at God and go, hey, you know what, I think I want to leave. Like, he just didn't sit there like, God, you seem like you're a really cool dude. I want your thing. I want to be you. I'm just going to leave because I find out I can't do that here. No, Satan had pride in his life, and God was like, bro, you either get on the team or you get off the field, right? Get on the team or get off the field. And Satan was like, I'm not ready to play on your team, God. And God kicked him in the benunu, which is another word for your butt. So kicks him in the benunu, hikes him out of heaven, and he goes, hey, anyone want to come with me? And we have this idea of that a third of the angels went with him. Do you know that nowhere in the Bible does it actually say a third of God's angels went with him? That's not in the Bible. It doesn't say that. Now, it alludes to it in Revelation 12. It talks about how a third of the stars fell. And that's a passage that alludes to Lucifer and him taking the angels. But nowhere does it say that a third of them actually left with him. There's just an allusion to something like that in the book of Revelation. But even if he did indeed take a third of the angels with him, that should be encouraging to us. Honestly, like, not that a third of the angels decided to get booted out of heaven, but that 2/3 of them stayed behind, right? Isn't that great? Now, I mean, I'm not a big military advisor or anything like that, but generally if you have a third of an army versus 2/3 of another army, I think the numbers usually are in favor. The numbers usually play out and have the advantage, and that should be an encouragement to us. It should also be an encouragement to us that again, when Satan didn't actually fall from heaven, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't something that happened, but God said, no, I am God, you are not. Get out of here. Kicked him in the benunu and sent him away. So how, why, and when was Satan out of heaven? Glad you guys asked. We see that in Ezekiel 28, 12 through 18. And it says this, Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. Ruby, topaz, emerald, chrysolite, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were the holy mountain of God, Mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in all your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mountain of God, and I expelled you. O guardian cherub from among the fiery stones, your heart became proud on account of your beauty. and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. But many sins and dishonest trade you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you. And I reduced you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who were watching. This is just powerful, powerful passage. Now, this passage is talking about the king of Tyre here, but ultimately we see that the king of Tyre, while Ezekiel is indeed talking about him, he's also alluding again to Lucifer. And it's funny, as I met with Tim on Wednesday, we meet on Wednesdays to go over sermons, and I'm very thankful for that because I've been struggling with something my whole life as a Christian. And I looked at him as we sat across the table, and he was like, okay, you feel good? I'm like, I feel something. Like, this is going to be great, right? Like, I'm like, yes, Tim, I feel good, but I have a question. And he goes, yeah, okay, what's the question? I'm like, I get confused. I get confused when we look at the Psalms or when we look at passages like this and we see it's like, oh, well, that's a prophecy about Jesus, or that's an allusion to Lucifer, or that's something. I'm like, no, that's in Ezekiel and it's talking about the king of Tyre. Tim, can you explain to me, how do we know that's an allusion to Lucifer? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I struggled with this. I've struggled with the idea of I just don't see it. And Tim was like, okay, let's take a look. And so in this passage, I love that it talks about it. So it starts off with the king of Tyre, but then it jumps in to how he was created. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub. Now, the king of Tyre was not an Israelite, so that's just weird that he would be anointed as a guardian cherub, which is an angel, And it says, you were on the holy mount of God. Why would an earthly king be on a holy mount of God? And it's like you walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in all of your ways the day you were created. Last time I checked, there was only one man that was perfect. And he died and rose again 2,000 years ago. So as I asked him this question, he kind of walked me through and he was like, Dustin, does it sound like he's talking only about a humanly king? I'm like, no, I can't honestly say I don't think so. I don't think so. And then it talks about how God found wickedness in him and he drove him away. He expelled him and he threw him to earth. It's amazing. Honestly, it's amazing when we look at the fall of Satan. To look at the pride that he had in his life. To look at the thing that he wanted. He wanted to be like God. He was like, yes, Lord, I see that you created. I see that you had these great things. You were powerful. You were almighty. You were omniscient. I want it. I want it. And as God's right hand angel, his number 2, God goes, oh, Lucifer, my most beautiful creation. And I just imagine him walking with him, arm in arm. He says, come with me. And he walks to the edge of the cloud cliff there in heaven. I don't know if there's a cloud cliff in heaven. This is how I see it in my head. And he's like, look at all that I have created. And Lucifer's like, yes. And God just simply, boop, kicks him in the banunu, and he goes, ah! Like, and he falls away, and then he just smack on earth. Out of heaven. Like, I don't know what happened. But I look at the pride that Satan had in his heart, and I see how God, just probably brokenhearted, as a parent would to their child, kicks him out and says, be gone. Leave my presence. There's also an allusion in Genesis 2 and 3 to the paradise story. I look at this idea of pride. And I can't help but think of last week. Jeff and Tim, they talked about this amazing thing of how we have this idea of pride and sin and how I is in the middle of both words. Coincidence? I don't know. I don't think so. You've got sin and pride and I. I always love it. When I was growing up, I played a lot of team sports, and there's no I in team. And I'm like, but there is a me, right? There is a me. So there is no word tricks with this one, though. There's pride and sin, and right dead smack in the middle, both of those is I. Satan's expulsion occurred a long, long time ago. Now, we don't actually know when Satan was kicked out from heaven. We don't actually see when that happened. But this is what we do know, okay? We do know that it happened before the Garden of Eden time. We know that it happened before the fall of man, right? Because he was in the Garden of Eden and he tricks Eve into eating the forbidden fruit. And we know he was there for that. But we also know that in the story of Job, somehow, some way, he's sitting there with God. And he's conversing with God. And he's going, hey, God, of course Job loves you. Look at him, he has everything. So God and him are talking, and there is a thought that some believe that Satan actually, while he was kicked out from heaven, still had the ability to go from heaven to earth and around, and still had the opportunity to go back and forth. And I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I know that's one of the thoughts. And they say that his permanent expulsion from heaven was when Christ died on the cross. And the gates of heaven opened, and we could go in. I'm not entirely sure on that whole timeline, but the one thing, again, that we do know is that Satan had been expelled from heaven before the fall of man. We look at that, and you just go, okay, all right, he fell. And we talk about the fall of man, right? Satan came in and he got kicked out. And then we look at him and go, okay, we have the fall of man. Man fell. And here's the thing. You guys know the story. I'm sure you guys have heard it many different times. So I'm not going to explain it to you, but this is what I want to do this morning. Pastor Tim actually found this amazing resource. It's called Read Scriptures. It's an app that you can download on your phone. And the cool thing about this app is that it takes you through a Bible reading plan. But before the Bible reading actually comes up, it takes you through videos of what it is you're about to read. And so this morning, I want to share with you guys a video about the fall of man because I think they would do a much better job of explaining it than me. Check this out.
The book of Genesis is the first book of the Bible, and its storyline divides into two main parts. There's chapters 1 through 11, which tell the story of God and the whole world. And then there's chapters 12 through 50, which zoom in and tell the story of God and just one man, Abraham, and then his family. And these two parts are connected by a hinge story at the beginning of chapter 12. And this design, it gives us a clue to how to understand the message of the book as a whole and how it introduces the story of the whole Bible. So the book begins with God taking the disorder and the darkness described in the second sentence of the Bible, and God brings out of it order and beauty and goodness. He makes a world where life can flourish. And God makes these creatures called humans, or Adam in Hebrew. He makes them in his image, which has to do with their role and purpose in God's world. So the humans are made to be reflections of God's character out into the world, and they're appointed as God's representatives to rule his world on his behalf, which in context means to harness all of its potential, to care for it, and make it a place where even more life can flourish. God blesses the humans. It's a key word in this book. And he gives them a garden. It's like a place from which they begin starting to build this new world. Now, the key is that the humans have a choice about how they're going to go about building this world. And that's represented by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Up till now, God has provided and defined what is good and what is not good. But now God is giving the humans the dignity and the freedom of a choice. Are they going to trust God's definition of good and evil, or are they going to seize autonomy and define good and evil for themselves? And the stakes are really high. To rebel against God is to embrace death, because you're turning away from the giver of life himself. This is represented by the tree of life. And so in chapter 3, a mysterious figure, a snake, enters into the story. The snake's given no introduction other than it's a creature that God made. And it becomes clear that it's a creature in rebellion against God, and it wants to lead the humans into rebellion and their death. The snake tells a different story about the tree and the choice. It says that seizing the knowledge of good and evil are not going to bring death, that it's actually the way to life and becoming like God themselves.
Wow. I want to encourage you guys, by the way, this is a brief glimpse of what Read Scripture is like. They actually do this before different chapter breakdowns, before different book breakdowns, and it's really cool. It's a fun way to kind of watch a quick video about what it is that you're about to read, and then as you jump in and start reading, like you kind of go, what is that? Oh, right. The video talked about this. Yeah, I see that. It's cool. So I want to encourage you guys, when you leave here today, don't forget to download the Read Scripture app. There's a ton of videos on there. It's just really cool. Even if you don't follow along in the reading plan, the videos are a huge resource. So I want to encourage you guys, check that out. But as we talk about the fall of man, this video was really, really cool because I love it. It talked about, right, how the big thing was that man wanted not to be equal with God, but they wanted autonomy. They wanted autonomy. Because here's the deal. They were already like God. God created man in his image, right? If God created man in his image, both man and woman, we have to recognize and understand that we were already like God. Now, we were not God. That's important to understand and know, but we were already like God. And so the big thing is that the push from Satan was that you can have autonomy from God. You get to decide what was right. You get to decide what is wrong. And we often want to do things our way, regardless of whether or not it's the best way. Right? That's what Satan promised Adam and Eve, is that you get to do things your way. I recently bought a house with my amazing, beautiful wife back there, Annalise. And as Annalise and I were buying this house, my dad's here. He's been kind of walking me through some different fixer-upper type stuff, and he was away kind of doing something, and I had 2 students with me in my house, and I decided, you know what, there's this part of a wall that had like this weird wooden thing in it. I didn't like it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this out. It's going to be real quick. So I had a student named Shane with me, and Shane and I are sitting there, and I'm like, Shane, come on. Like, we're reading this book on how to be men as Christian men, and I'm like, let's be men. Like, let's do some work. Let's have some fun. And I've got Shane with me, and I'm like, let's do this. And so we get hammers, and we get screwdrivers, and we get stuff, and we're pounding away at this wooden piece, trying to pull it out of the wall. I realized the nails inside of the wooden piece were actually like really far into the wood. So then I'm like, that's okay. This is like more destruction. This is going to be great. So now we've got like screwdrivers, we've got hammers, and we're hammering away through the wood, trying to get to the nails so we can pull this thing out. And my dad, after like 25 minutes of Shane and I just like, yeah, man. And I'm like, come on, Shane, do it this way. Come on, Shane, do it that way. Like, I'm walking him through, and we're doing this, and we're feeling good. We're feeling strong. And it's like 25 minutes. My dad comes in, and he goes, why didn't you just get the Sawzall and cut through the nails underneath? And you could have just pushed it out. And I was like, Dad, no. Like, I felt so good. I was so proud that I was going to do this, that I was going to do this amazing thing in my house. And I was like, yes, I know what I'm doing. This is great. And we're working hard. And I was having so much pride. Honestly, I was like looking at Shane. I'm like, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do that. And we're working through it. And I was just like so puffed up. And my chest was like, I can roar like a man. And my dad's like, oh, son. oh, my son. You did 25 minutes of work when you could have done it in 3. And I'm like, darn it. But I was so prideful. Why? Because I thought that I knew what was best. I was going to do it my way. Regardless of whether or not it was the right way or the wrong way, I was going to do it my way. And that's what Adam and Eve ultimately were promised from Satan. So that you know the difference between good and evil, and you can do it your way. They were already like God. But they wanted to do it their way. The human heart is deceitful. Honestly, it is super incredibly deceitful. Jeremiah 17:9 says that the heart above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Proverbs 16:2 says, all a man's ways seem innocent to him, but motives are weighed by the Lord. In 1 Corinthians 4:5, therefore judge nothing before the appointed time. Wait till the Lord comes. He will bring light to what is hidden in darkness and will expose the motives of men's heart. At that time, each will receive his praise from God. Here's the problem, guys. Here's the big problem. When we look at our hearts, right, we really look at the human heart and we don't understand just how deceitful it is because we are completely and utterly oblivious to the condition of our own heart. We don't understand the weight and the depth that our own heart brings into our sin nature, into our pride, into who we are. In the book of Deuteronomy, Moses tells the people that, you're choosing autonomy from God. Be careful. Be careful. He warns them off. Deuteronomy 30, verse 6. The Lord your God will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants so that you may love him with all your heart and with your soul and live. And live. The theme is picked up in the prophets of Jeremiah and Ezekiel and on and on. And Jeremiah 4:4 says this, circumcise yourselves to the Lord. Circumcise your hearts, you men of Judah and people of Jerusalem, or my wrath will break out and burn like fire because of the evil you have done. Burn with no one to quench it. Paul also speaks about this idea of circumcision in Romans, and it says, Romans 2:29, no, a man is a Jew if he is one inwardly. And circumcision is circumcision of the heart by the Spirit, not by the written code. Such a man's praise is not from men, but from God. So we have to ask ourselves, what is circumcision? What is circumcision? This is what you all came for, right, on Sunday morning, to talk about circumcision. I know it. No, we're not talking about circumcision in the way that we see Abraham do it and the Jews do it in the Old Testament, but we're talking about circumcision of the heart. What does that mean? Well, circumcision means to cut away, to make different. A physical circumcision was the sign of the covenant that Israel made with God. To say, yes, God, I choose to follow you. I'm going to honor you in your law, and I'm going to follow your ways. That was a physical sign of circumcision. But it is the Holy Spirit that circumcised the heart. It is the Holy Spirit that sets us apart in God's name. And we need to use that Spirit. We need to rely on the Spirit to circumcise our hearts. Because, guys, our hearts are deceitful. Our hearts cause pain. Pride comes from the heart. It is surrounding the heart. Honestly, it is through our heart that goes, me, I will. And it is that pride that you don't even see it, but yet it runs you from the innermost core and runs out. In the passages above, it also talks about how God is the only one who really seems to be concerned about the condition of the heart. God is the only one who seems to be concerned about the condition of the heart, and that's not the way it should be. We all need to be concerned about the condition of our own heart. We have this idea of narcissism, right? Some of you guys have heard this word, and some of you guys haven't. It's probably because you are one. I only know that because of me, all right? It's personal experience. But narcissism, it is the pursuit of gratification from vanity or an egotistic admiration of one's idealized self-image and attributes. Guys, when we look at the heart, when we look at the things, the groanings of our own heart, I hate to break it to you, but we're all narcissists. We all want just that, a pursuit of gratification from vanity or egotistic admiration because it's all about me. It is all about me. And if you don't believe me, we've created a checklist for you guys. And as we go down, maybe you fall somewhere on this checklist. Or maybe not you, but maybe you know somebody who does, right? Maybe you know somebody who does. And the first one is this: self-promotion is the product of an insatiable appetite for recognition. You have this creative conversation inserts, right? You can jump in and talk about yourself. No matter who's talking, no matter what's going on, you immediately start going, okay, how do I relate to this? What can I share about me? What's going to go on? Right? Me, I. Or you have this idea of I knew before you, right? Like, I knew before you. And I love this hanging out with students because they're always like, oh, I knew this. And it's like, yeah, well, I knew that 10 years ago because I'm older than you. I see it in my own self, guys. I see it in my own self. And I know some of you guys are probably sitting here going, Dustin, I probably knew things a little bit before you because you guys are all about a year, maybe 2 years older than I am. So I'm sure you guys experienced some of this before me. Right? But it's that idea of when we hear people talking or we hear the things that are going on, it's like, I knew that before you. What's going on in your heart? It's not a matter of whether or not you say it out loud, which I think a lot of us do, if I'm being honest. But it's still there in your heart. Or you have the fear of appearing ignorant, right? You have something to say about everything. Or I like to add in on this one, maybe it's the fear of being inadequate. The fear of being inadequate. Right? We're reluctant to admit that we don't know anything. Now, and I think men, we struggle with this more. I'm getting ready in November to head down to something called the Baja 1000, and I love it because it's all these race car guys that come out, and it's all about cars. I'm going to let you in a little secret. I know nothing about cars. I know where the gas goes in. I know how to turn them on. That's about it, okay? But I love being down there in the Baja 1000 because you're like, yeah, this has got a big Buzz Lightyear engine. It's a VTEC 9 billion, and it goes from 0 to 1 million miles per hour in about 8 seconds flat. And I'm like, Buzz Lightyear engine, huh? That's really great. Oh, yeah. Or maybe when we go to a mechanic and they're like, well, it's your catalytic converter. You're like, no, that's over here by the radiator, right? Yeah, okay. I don't know anything about cars, but I don't admit that to anyone. I just kind of shake my head and go, oh, yeah, grunt a little bit. Guys, you know what I'm talking about. When you have this fear of being ignorant, this fear of being inadequate. And so we just need to go on. Or how about this one? The refusal of admitting fault and the transfer of blame to others. When image is everything, no price is too high, especially when it's being paid by others. We put ourselves above others and our needs above others, even if that means that we're at fault and we're willing to pass that blame onto somebody else. One word on that one: politics. Right? Politics. We all know, I'm not going to talk about where I stand, or I don't need to know where you guys stand, but it's just that idea of politics. It's not my fault. Whose fault is it? Somebody else's. Anyone else's. Or how about elusive moral immunity? We are above the rules. And I love that I put this in here. One of the things that that reminds me of this is that I'm above the rules. Is I think we've all experienced it. We're on the freeway, we're driving, and all of a sudden out of nowhere you see somebody just come flying up behind you doing way faster than what they should, and you're like, you're putting everyone's life at risk. What are you doing? That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Right? They're above the rules. But how many times is it that we've been driving too fast? Right? And then we're the ones weaving in and out for unknown reasons. I mean, I don't know, but we're the ones doing it, but we're justifying it to ourselves. Right? We're justifying it to ourselves, going, no, you don't understand the needs that I have right now. I'm going to be late for work. I can't be late for work. I got to get going. This morning, I hate saying it, but this morning, I'm with my wife. I'm on the back roads coming from Galt over here, and the speed limit's 55. I saw the signs about 45 different times. And next thing I know, I look down, I'm doing about 67 miles an hour. There's not a cop in here, right? That'd be okay, good. I'm doing about 67 miles an hour, and I'm starting to go, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and then it hit me that I'm that guy. That I'm the guy that's driving maybe a little bit too fast. Because I was concerned about getting the donuts here. So no one would be like, oh my gosh, where are the donuts? And I was like, oh, I'm so late. I got to get the donuts. But I was justifying to myself that I could drive a little faster because of donuts. I hate when I become the example that's in my sermon. Honestly, guys, it's that idea of putting ourselves above other people. I have a great idea, or you're not waiting to be asked. These are the things of a narcissist, the things that we can look at. Guys, hubristic pride pops up in everyday conversations and situations. It's all about me. It's all about me, right? So ultimately, we got to ask ourselves, what are we going to do about this? So what? We've got the pride. I understand the fall of Satan, the fall of man. I get it. It's a condition of the heart. We need to allow the Spirit to circumcise our heart. But what does all that mean, right? What are we supposed to do about it? Well, how about this? First and foremost, you need to admit that you're a card-carrying member of the attention seeker syndrome club. All right? The attention seeker syndrome club. Now, if you don't know if you belong to this, ask one of your closest friends. I don't need to ask my friends, and I know that sounds prideful, but wait. It's because my wife likes to remind me all the time. Dustin, don't you think maybe you're putting a little too much attention? I'm like, oh, sorry, honey. She's, I love Annalise. She helps me. She humbles me. She reminds me to be a better man. Ask your friends, are you a member of the attention seeker syndrome club? How about this one? We need to wait in conversations, right? We need to wait in conversations. And I just don't mean wait in conversations, but when you're waiting your turn to talk, how about this one? Let's try listening. Like, I'm so guilty of this all the time, guys, and I know I can't be the only one, but you're in a conversation and someone's talking and you're like, and they're like, it's like Charlie Brown, right? Wah, 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 and you're thinking about what it is you're going to say next. How about we wait in the conversation and listen to what it is they're saying? Or how about we ask for accountability, right? And this is a hard one. This is a hard one, especially with pride, to ask somebody to hold you accountable, to help you be a little less prideful. Now, there's a caveat with this. Don't ask everyone, okay? Because you know that there's just people in our lives that are going to remind you every word that comes out of your mouth. Well, that might have been prideful. That might have been prideful. Careful who you choose, but I would say choose wisely, but ask for accountability. A spouse is a great person to ask. If you're not married, maybe a best friend. And hopefully there is some wisdom and some discernment in the middle of the conversation. You don't get the nudge in the gut. And you're like, oh, okay, got it. But maybe it's after the conversation, honey, maybe we were just a bit prideful in that. Last but not least, one of the things that we could do is to subdue and be relentless. Subdue and be relentless. Again, humility is not the absence of pride, but the relentless effort to subdue it in oneself. 1 Peter 5:6, again, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you and I plead with you, don't let the mosquitoes of your life come and attack you. Because here's the thing, right? The mosquito isn't the thing that dies. The mosquito isn't the thing that causes illness. It is not the thing that the mosquito bites that causes the illness and kills, but it's the mosquito itself, right? It's that mosquito, the pride in our heart, the small thing that we don't even recognize is there, that ends up causing the most harm. The most deadliest animal in the world. And we line that up to pride, the thing that we think is hidden, the thing that we think that maybe we don't struggle from, ends up being the result of so much sin and the thing that hurts so many. Will you guys join me in prayer? Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, I am humbled that I get to be here this morning. Lord, I thank you that I get to join these amazing people in just worshiping you and learning from you. But Lord, I pray that as we take this journey together, as we take the journey of subduing our pride and being relentless in our fight against it, Lord, I pray that you help each and every one of us. Lord, take that small thing that packs such a powerful punch in our lives, Lord, and may you help us conquer it and continue to fight it in everyday life, whether it's in conversation, whether it's in our hearts, in our marriages, in our relationships. Lord, may you just be at the center of this, and may we be reminded of your word. May we be reminded of the consequence of our pride and the consequence of the sin that we have. And may we work towards the reward, the grace that you provide. Lord, thank you again. And be with us and guide us, Lord. And may we just learn to love you more with each breath that we take. We say these things in your precious and holy name. Amen. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for letting me join you here this morning. I appreciate you guys, and have an awesome day. All right, be blessed, and don't forget, go Dodgers.